Forever Young Radio Live. I am Raleigh Culp, as usual, here with Bob. How are you doing today, Bob?
Great, Raleigh. How are you?
Good.
Great. And I saw the Lightning won their first game.
Yes, we did.
Awesome.
We won the season opener, and it was at home.
That's the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey team, the best hockey team of the last 20 years, would you say?
I'd say probably.
10 years, 15
I'd say
years?
at least the last 10 to 15.
Yeah. Good.
There's a lot of good contenders, and we're going to be showing up again this year as usual.
That's great. So, Raleigh, today we're going to be talking about a real interesting phenomenon.
Yes.
It's being reported out by a company, a retailer that sells food.
Yes.
And
you've, if you've watched the show before, you've probably seen our other shows on the weight loss drugs like semaglutide, and I believe we have two. Yeah, we have two. We have the initial one where we were starting to talk about it, and then we also had a secondary one. So if you haven't seen those, go check them out on YouTube, or you can go to boomerboost.com and look up the podcasts. But if you haven't seen them, check them out. This is kind of another update on the weight loss drugs because, they're new to the market. Lots of things that people didn't expect to happen with them happened. And now here's another kind of crazy thing that happened. So if you want to let them know what we found.
So this was being reported in the financial news that food stocks, meaning not supplies of food, but the stock on the stock market of publicly traded companies that either are exclusively in the food business or partly in the food business, that the market watch people are concerned that it's going to hurt their stocks. And in one particular case, it already has. Just since the middle of September, a major company stock went down 4%. And they're talking about the fact that it's these weight loss drugs that are causing people to buy less food.
Right. Yeah, we were looking in an article, and it's funny, the retailer who does this also sells prescriptions. So they were anonymously looking through people who bought the drug and then their food purchasing habits to see how they related. And what they were saying is that the people who are on weight loss drugs like Ozempic and semaglutide and all the Wegovy or all those other ones, the people who do buy those tend to buy less food. Right now they're saying, it's not a lot, but it does seem to be like if the trend continues, there will be a lot of people buying a lot less food.
Yeah.
So when you talk about that, one of the side effects of the semaglutide or weight loss drugs is the cravings, the stopping of the cravings. And what this is causing is people to buy less food in general, and especially the stuff that might be processed or with carbs or that has the sweets in it, because those cravings that the brain's always being triggered to before the semaglutide or weight loss drugs is gone. And in some cases, we talked about on another show, it can be a little detrimental to the point where you don't have a lot of, you kind of lose interest in not just food, but other things that interest you. So you have to be careful with the weight loss drugs, and you have to make sure that you don't go overboard, because this stopping and cessation of cravings can also kind of like have an effect on what you want to do, going out, having a good time. Those cravings to have a good time can kind of subside too. So you have to be careful. Depression and anxiety can kind of be on the horizon if you're having an issue like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. So this was something that was kind of, we knew this weight loss drug craze was catching on.
Right.
But not to the point where now they're talking about it in the marketplace.
Right.
In terms of
finances.
Showing up that people are buying less food, and they know for sure because they have data tracking in place to see who's buying what.
Right.
And one of the things they're buying less of is beer.
Oh,
that
okay.
was one thing. And then other products that contain a lot of sugar. And I think that when people start to get interested enough in weight loss that they're going to actually take a drug for it, they're also educating themselves about other aspects of health and wellness and weight loss. And if they're going to buy less food, they know what to buy less of, because they know that high glycemic index carbohydrates are going to cause you to store more fat.
Right.
It's also less well known that the issue with beer, which has alcohol, of course, unless you're buying non-alcoholic beer, is a severe toxin to your mitochondria. And they say that there are a lot of things you can do to support your mitochondria to make more energy, which also helps you release more weight, right? But there's nothing that you can take in any amount that will counteract the negative effects of too much alcohol.
Okay.
So there's a lot of benefits to this trend where people are now buying less beer. It's helping their health in more ways than one.
Yeah, and so when we talk about the mitochondria, right, the powerhouses of the body, of the cells, right, we look at the things that power the mitochondria, the energy, and the way the Krebs cycle works and all that. And when you are taking in things with sugars and processed foods, you may get a little bump in energy shortly, but it creates a lot of inflammation and oxidation. And that damage is something that can lead to other health issues, right?
Yeah, particularly it damages the mitochondria. So the mitochondria has a double lipid membrane where a lot of the action occurs there. And that membrane is highly susceptible to oxidative stress. And there's natural oxidative stress in that membrane anyway because of the nature of the Krebs cycle. But there are things that can increase oxidative stress. And too much sugar is definitely one of them. Sugar in your bloodstream will create excess sugar, will create a lot of excess inflammation. And once you have inflammation going on inside the cell, that is damaging the mitochondria. There's hundreds of mitochondria in each cell that are working to generate energy. And the more they generate energy, the more oxidation they create. But if you're exacerbating the inflammation via your diet and taking in foods that are toxic like alcohol, directly damages the mitochondria, and also processed foods that have high fructose corn syrup, that also have seed oils, the cooking oils that people use that are really bad for you. They're bad for you even if you don't cook with them, but if you cook them and make them into trans fats, now you have a toxic situation on your mitochondria that's very hard to overcome. And so the overall health process is to chip away at what you don't want and then replace it with what's much better.
Right. And I mean, I think one of the things that at least the weight loss drugs can help with is the cessation of the cravings. But then obviously you're going to be eating better, but you're still going to need, the best diets are going to have gaps in them nutritionally, no matter what. So one of the things that we were kind of talking about is having a good plan to make up for that type of stuff. Because, the inflammation and oxidation that was caused has to be cleaned out, rebuild and repair. And you always want clean energy, stimulant-free natural energy. And so like by using something like our dynamic combo with the Boomer Boost and the barley, which actually helps to replenish nutrients, detoxify, and build strength, you can kind of have a plan that once you start to have the cravings and things from a weight loss drug start to work, to replace that with something that is beneficial for your body. And we have a lot of people who look forward to using this every day. They save a lot of money on groceries already because they stop buying food because of that. And then I can imagine you'd be obviously saving a lot of time by having a really easy thing to do to get what you need,
Yeah, and people generally, when they use our total health system, which also adds in some good fats with fish oil and vitamin D and some probiotics, which are extremely helpful with the injection of metabolites. Most people that do that don't also need to eat breakfast. So I never eat breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
I drink my drink with a couple of pills, and then I won't eat lunch until later on. I won't be hungry until around 2 o'clock. So if you look at the amount of money people spend on breakfast, and you look at what they might spend on a total health system,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's actually cheaper to use the total health system for your breakfast.
Right.
And in addition, you become extremely well nourished, so you crave less food the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so overall, you consume less calories, and people will release weight,
Mm-hmm.
be extremely well nourished. It also helps with their cravings the same way the weight loss drugs do. So it's a really great combination. And we also saw recently, Raleigh, about the mental health benefits.
Right. I was just mentioning, so by taking in these nutrients, you're giving the mitochondria what it needs to perform. And back to that type of, less carbohydrates and processed foods, that's kind of akin to a ketogenic diet.
Well,
Right?
you're eliminating the things that are the opposite of the keto diet. And so when you're going to replace that food with something else, less food, as it turns out, you want to focus on foods that are part of a ketogenic diet, which are focusing more on good fats from foods like avocados.
Mm-hmm.
And people would do very well to replace high glycemic index carbs with an avocado.
Yeah, those
so
good
even
fats.
some fruits are very high in sugar,
Mm.
and you're better off using avocado, which is also a fruit, right? But it's very low glycemic index carbs and a lot of good fat. And what happens is you end up having a different structure to the creation of your energy. So you end up burning ketones for energy as opposed to carbs.
Right.
It's much cleaner burning. And we know from Dr. Palmer's book how that leads to really a great advantage in addressing mental health issues.
Yeah, actually, real quick, I have an image of the book I'll put up here. The book that we're talking about is actually called Brain Energy. Let me take this other thing down here so you guys can actually see it. So Brain Energy, a revolutionary breakthrough in understanding mental health and improving treatment for anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, and more by Christopher M. Palmer, MD. It's a dramatic breakthrough to understanding mental issues by leading Harvard psychiatrists. So it takes a lot of this information, and a lot of it goes down to the cellular level, like we were talking about. And in this book, he uses an example of epilepsy, right?
Yes. So one of the things that he is lamenting is that his discoveries are not catching on as quickly as he had hoped with other clinicians. And they are kind of still stuck in the old mode of, well, we prescribe this for that.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was saying is this isn't new, that they've known that there's a dramatic positive effect on the brain using a ketogenic diet.
Right.
They've known that for many decades. And the example they use is epilepsy. So epilepsy is known to have a cure, and the cure is a ketogenic diet. Not in every case, because there's many reasons for epilepsy, but for a vast majority of the people with epilepsy, they can be cured with a ketogenic diet. And when we say cured, there's about 50% of the people whose symptoms of epilepsy go away using a keto diet. 50% of them, after doing it for 2 to 5 years, can switch back to a different diet. They don't need to stay on the keto diet, but their epilepsy remains cured.
Interesting. So we're talking about never coming back type of deal.
Now, there are some people that you can switch them off of a strict keto diet, even just slightly, and their epilepsy will come back. And so there are people where they have 40 or 50 years of data on people with epilepsy that have been using ketogenic diets.
Interesting.
And so, and it relates all the way back to the function of the mitochondria, because the mitochondria serve not only to create energy, but they serve to signal the nervous system, and they signal the creation of neurotransmitters.
Right.
And so the signaling in the brain of an epileptic is tied directly to the mitochondria.
Okay.
So when you alter the way the mitochondria is functioning by burning ketones instead of carbohydrates, you're changing the way that the mitochondria signals the brain.
Right. So if you're just joining us, what we're talking about here is recently these weight loss drugs like semaglutide and Ozempic and things like that have been helping reduce cravings for many people, so much so that they're buying less food and they're replacing, hopefully, it with less food, which is really good. So we were talking about the fact that you can try to rely on supplements to make up for nutritional gaps. And we were also talking about how eating less of these processed foods and foods with carbs and sugars, eating less of that is actually beneficial for the brain, right? And we were talking about the book by Christopher Palmer called Brain Energy, and he was talking about how they, in that book, and we were reviewing it, by doing this keto diet, it can actually, in a percentage of the people, cure the epilepsy issues that they were having. So can the keto diet cure epilepsy? Seems like there's some information that says it's very effective.
Yes, and then the book actually, Brain Energy, is an extension of that. They're using the example of epilepsy as an indicator of how the brain can be changed by your diet. And so now the research has become focused on what other issues in the brain can be helped. And that what they're now showing is it can help depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and psychosis.
Goodness.
And so this is what the book is about. It's about orthomolecular psychiatry and this new revolution in the life sciences that are showing how a ketogenic diet, can alter a person's brain to the point where they no longer have mental illness.
Wow.
And it's the beginning of a new revolution in the treatment of mental illness. Now, orthomolecular psychiatry has been around for a long time. They know, for example, certain bipolar conditions are related to certain B vitamin deficiencies, and they've been treating that like that for a while. But now this is focused on the ketogenic diet, which is heavy in good fats and low in high glycemic index carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So you're switching from burning sugar for fuel to burning ketones for fuel.
Burning ketones, right. Now, the thing about, everybody's worried about bad fats and good fats. We talked a little bit about the good fats. Good fats are things like omega-3s, right? You've got the avocados that you mentioned. I know that walnuts have a good amount of good fats in them. There's a lot of natural foods that you can get good fats from. And that's important, especially in your diet. But a lot of the times, it's like with everything, you might not get enough.
Yeah.
So omega-3s are really key. Actually, I forget who, you may remember, but someone was talking, we were reading their information. They said, if you could only take one thing, an omega-3 would probably be one of the best things you could take, just in general. If you can't take any other supplements, try to at least take an omega-3 because all the benefits for the brain and the rest of the body, the good fats. I actually think they've taken omega-3s, and believe there's a pharmaceutical company who's tried to create a drug around them.
Yeah.
I don't know why you just wouldn't take the regular thing, but anyway, that's how important they are.
Absolutely. And so I think, Raleigh, that this was surprising, I think, to everybody, that the issue of stock prices being affected by the weight loss drugs is now really highlighting the benefit of those drugs.
Right.
I know people that have gone from being 25 and 30 pounds overweight to getting to their ideal body weight within 3 to 4 months. And they're just really, really makes a big difference in people's lives. And there's some famous psychologists, women psychologists, that help women with mental health and self-esteem issues, specifically in regard to what they look like.
Mm.
And I remember talking with one particular psychologist who said, you know, a beautiful haircut and a new wardrobe will make people feel better than all of the therapy in the world. And so she switched her company actually from being a counseling company to being a clothing and hairstyle company.
Interesting.
And she believes she's doing more good for women by doing that.
Hmm.
And I met with her over in Tampa at a meeting with a marketing company that she had commissioned to help get this message out with her new books and stuff.
Right.
And so now, so that relates to the weight loss drugs in that now women are buying new wardrobes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're buying different types of clothes because the clothes fit them differently. They're no longer buying big baggy clothes to hide the fact that they're overweight.
Mm-hmm.
They're buying different types of clothes to highlight that they are now at their ideal body weight.
Right.
And those people feel different. They actually feel different. And it's not just a vanity thing or something like that. It's documented by psychologists how they feel different and feel better and the positive effect on their mental health.
That's awesome. Yeah. So a lot of good things. Like we mentioned, it's not always an easy thing. We've been looking for a long time for something that's effective for weight loss. So this seems to be a good option. Remember, like we talked about, the effect it can have on your cravings is good when it comes to sweets. But one of the things that they say to do is stay active, make sure that you still take part in things that make you happy, because again, those are the type of things that can sometimes become an issue. So as just like with everything, there's a good balance, right? Stay active, make sure you speak and talk to your loved ones, and also with the benefits that you're getting with losing the weight, the less cravings, take advantage of them. Exercise, right? Be active, exercise, and make the most out of it, right?
Absolutely. So thanks, Raleigh.
Amen.
Very good. And thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to Live Forever Young Radio Live. We'll see you on the next show.